Well, here we are back again. We didn't know if we were going to do this or not, but we're here back live. The Professor Andrew Murray and I, Anthony Miller, still alive, right? We didn't do him, and I think he's up and moving. I think he's just writing articles. Yeah, maybe he's a little, a little hungover, but Anthony's here. Andy, we're back live following the UFL championship game. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing? Have you managed to survive the hotel shenanigans?
It was good. Yeah, funny stories here. We'll preface, get into everything. Appreciate it. Like and subscribe if you enjoy the work. Like I said, live here today from St. Louis. We got people checking in. We'll throw up some comments here. Yeah, not the greatest game, Abdul. We will get to all of that, but live here, St. Louis. Hussey and I are going to be doing our CFL recap show tomorrow. Regular episode Friday. Look for UFL insider Mike Mitchell. Kind of full season recap of the UFL 2024 season. What worked, what didn't work. But like and subscribe. We added subscribers last night. I think we had like 3,500 people check out the UFL championship pregame show. Obviously, most watched. Again, with all of that, appreciate everybody. But yeah, like and subscribe if you're part of that. Click join. I had comments last night like, how do we get back? You can do a thanks. You can do a super chat. You can do join the channel at 99 cents a month. But we'll get to stories here. But first off, I can corroborate with talking with some of the XFL execs that were at the hotel last night. We really were in the hotbed, but not a great game, and they know that.
Yeah, no, I mean, just kind of bewildering, honestly, and honestly, in a word, confusing, considering what one team did and another team didn't do. But look, this game, there's so much that really kind of compact as far as what happened. First of all, on the field, I mean, Birmingham made a statement. They made history. They've won three in a row. Blah, 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 St. Edmondson Eskimos. I'm not going to steal Mike Mitchell's thunder on that. He's talked about that plenty of times. But just a tremendous accomplishment from them. You and I were sitting in Birmingham 3 years ago, just the beginning, inaugural season of the USFL, and you're sitting there wondering, well, how many of these are there going to be? How many USFL games are going to, how's this hub concept? Who's this Birmingham team? We don't even know anything. We didn't know, how much did we know about Skip Holtz? Not very much. How much did we know about Jamar Smith, Alex Magoo, all these characters? And you've just seen this basically parade of them the last 3 years. People who come in and have made contributions, guys who've been on the team for 3 years, guys who were hurt last year, like i.e. Marlon Williams. He tears up his Achilles last year and he comes back this year stronger than ever and he plays in the championship game. He was tweeting last night like, oh, man, I can't believe I have 3 rings. Think about that. As a pro football player, having 3 championship rings in a league, that's not easy to do in any league. And to do it 3 consecutive years and changing formats and changing environments with players coming in and out and coaching changes that we even saw this year with them, truly remarkable from their standpoint. I have to tip my cap to them. It's really, it just doesn't happen in a lot of sports, and especially in pro football. It's so hard to do, and I just want to appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah, no, like I said, let's congratulate Birmingham for 3-time championship here. Lots of excitement last night. Like I said, we were at the hotel bar. We didn't even really know, like we had just booked, and then we kind of figured that out Friday, or I guess going into Saturday. Okay, we're at the Birmingham, but all the brass was there last night. I shook Daryl Moose Johnston's hand. He told me, yes, Reed, that we're going to bring back the XFL kickoff next year. Actually, he said, hey, Mark, we're going to bring back the kickoff next year. But no, I talked with Daryl, with some football execs there. Skip Holtz was celebrity number 1 there, came in. We ran into Gregory Crawford, one of our longtime listeners. You love when you just sit down at the bar, and you know us, and we run this podcast, and someone walks up to you in full Birmingham Stallions regalia and goes, do you know who I am? And I was like, oh, yes, Gregory. So Gregory was very nice. If he's watching this, I was going to show here. We saw one of our friends here. We ran into James taking photos. So, we had a good time. Any standout interactions that you had either before or after the game?
There were so many wonderful people. I just want to say it was a convention, basically. And not only that, we were next to the convention center. I mean, literally, it was almost like a convention itself, in that there were so many different people from this space that we got to meet. Obviously, there were league executives that were in the hotel, fans, personnel, just a lot of people that we've interacted with online, and we finally got to meet in person. A lot of characters that I've interacted with over the last 3 years, and that we've been able to finally see in person. And Gregory Crawford was fantastic. he gave us a little bit of a tough time, with some of the things we mentioned about Birmingham this year. Obviously, the attendance numbers, which I'm not going to really get into today. That's not my concern.
We are going to talk attendance here.
Not too much, though, but not, not as much as I'm lambasted about it. But look, no, it's been wonderful meeting everybody here, really. The gentleman you set me up sitting next to me the entire game.
Yeah, Jaw's on here. Jaw's checking in on the show. Yeah.
Jaw was great. Shout out to Jaw, wherever he is right now. He was awesome. I love talking to him and chopping it up with him. Russ Julio came over and talked to us. He was just super cordial, super nice. Really loved interacting with him. Skip Holtz, nice, just very hospitable and warm with his time. Great gentleman. Really wonderful to see him in that space. So yeah, honestly, Reed, it's hard for me to really pinpoint one because there were so many great people that we got to talk to and really kind of share. This is a community, and this is a community that you and I very much care deeply about because there's a lot of really interesting people in it, and you get to meet so many different kinds of people in the space who I think last night you just saw a giant celebration of what was going on. So I really appreciate that, and I really hope I get to experience that more, especially if I make the Grey Cup this year, be able to experience the Canada side of it. But I really love being able to experience this part of it, especially after the last 3 years.
Yeah, I got the photo here. You can see Holtz. We got Gregory back here. It really was. I'll tell you, lots of I don't think that Skip Holtz will ever have to buy a drink in the city of Birmingham ever again. And he certainly was not last night. Very well taken care of. Very well, and rightfully so. Like I said, a lot. It reminded me, and we weren't, because last year we were obviously at the championship game in San Antonio, and I think we talked at the bar because there's the Dwayne and Danny of it all, and I think she was in and out, but a lot of the league execs were here. I mean, Danny's off doing whatever. A lot of people are here. We got Russ Brandon's there holding court, talking to people. You got Daryl Johnston walking around, but. We didn't see that last year, but we did the first year in Birmingham, with the Fox people, Eric Shanks and Joel Klatt, who you talked to, everybody at the bar following that. And it was just cool to see that again last night, that it felt like this is a celebration. We're through this. We saw a lot of the media people. Corey was walking around, ticket sale Corey from, the Guardians and now with the Stallions. And, he's got a ring, right? Or gets to hold the trophy, kind of all that stuff. So it's cool to see. Just really kind of exciting, and just it felt just an accomplishment. I don't know. It's cool to see that. It was just really fun, kind of eavesdropping, watching all of that. Nothing too out of the realm. And then Leon here, no, they're not bringing back the camera. Yeah, although I did talk to some league execs involved in rules and regulations, and I said, we're going to do that, right? We're going to do that. So we'll see. But at least put a bug in the ear for all of that. But really appreciate that. Chris, the Moose League the expansion teams. Moose was having a good time. Because we were there, lights came on, it was time to go. It was really fun. Nothing out of the realm, but we did see, maybe a knocked over beer or two. It was kind of interesting to kind of see some people. I won't say who.
It's really, it's a good time when the entire bar collectively groans when they turn the lights on and tell you to go home. And people really didn't go home for quite a while. I mean, I'm just so taken aback by the kinetic energy in that room the last 2 nights. I mean, people were just staying down there and just continuing to chop it up. Really just something I've not really been part of in a while, and especially in a hotel bar of all places. But man, really just there was a lot of energy in that room, in that lobby for the last 2 nights, and you really felt it.
All right, so let's talk here. Let's get the first out of the way, then we'll talk game, and then we'll kind of talk what's coming up next. But we knew attendance was going to be rough. We talked about that and the Battlehawks and all of that. I'm curious. You were in the crowd. I came down. I started in the press box. I wanted to see who was up there, and then came down. Felt very anti-Brahmas. The people that were there, it felt like a lot of Battlehawks people that weren't mic reports. 27,396. This was the photo at kickoff that I took. I imagine that is the distributed tickets. I imagine there was not a lot of Battlehawks people that were there. We did see a good contingent of Birmingham Stallions people, including Gregory, that traveled up. But thoughts on that? And it was just a weird crowd dynamic because it really felt like we don't want the Brahmas here at all. But it's like, we should have just won last week.
I mean, that's the thing. It was a lot of bitter St. Louis fans, and the ones that begrudgingly showed up to root against them. I give them their due. They showed up. You're
able to do pay. You buy your tickets.
You buy your tickets, and that's fine. I will say I did see a lot of jerseys from a lot of the XFL teams. I did see Roughneck. I guess Roughnecks are USFL now, but yeah, the jerseys from last year. I saw Roughneck jerseys from last year. I saw Brahmas, obviously. We saw DC fans. You saw people from other parts of the league. This is becoming a thing that I've noticed, especially last year too, where there are fans from other teams that will travel and just say, we want to support the league. We just want to show up. And that's great. You need to have that and continue to build off that, because that's the kind of energy I'd like to see. A couple of some USFL fans here and there. But I just, I think there was just so much negative Brahma energy that it felt like it was going to be the Stallions party no matter what. Although it's so funny because certain players would get booed depending on who got honored for what. The player awards was really a standout thing. Adrian Martinez's MVP was not well received. A lot of people were crazy about that. Also, do not mention Tom Brady's name in the stadium because that's not going to go well. But he's obviously not on the field from a playing standpoint. There's so many random people and so many different dynamics there where I think the crowd was trying to figure out where are we going for here, and it felt neutral. I'll say that because everyone kind of picked their own corner to kind of sit in, not just literally but figuratively too, in terms of what am I supposed to be supporting here. So that was really interesting. But as far as the crowd, the size of the crowd, I got to be honest, I thought the San Antonio crowd was a little bit bigger last year. I just thought there was a few more people in there. I mean, not significantly so, but it just felt that it was a little bit more filled out in the Alamo Dome last year. And those were people that, there was none of this, we'll get into this later, but whether or not someone bought the ticket and actually showed up. I mean, those people did actually show up in the stadium, and I could feel that. With this case, obviously, there were some, missing party members. And it was interesting trying to kind of sort of sift through the energy in the crowd and trying to figure out what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why this cable's feeling weird here. That's not a you problem. That's a cable problem. Yeah, it felt weird. And I will just say, and first off, never say the league isn't listening. I came in on Friday, or when did we come in? Saturday. I went to the Arch, did my caca crybabies and all of that, and I ran into a league executive walking out of the elevator. They said, "Hey, Reed, what about the caca crybabies?" I go, "Oh, you like that?" They said, "No, not really." But I want to create a spark, and I want to say something, because this is what I didn't get about all this. When you're in a CFL, when you're in a UFL, when you're in one of these leagues where you have these neutral site games, this is what is part of the deal. I mean, and I said the same thing and was negative about the CFL, the Rough Rider fans 2 years ago when they sat at home, when Winnipeg was their conference division rival, and they didn't want to go. I don't know. That to me, you have to get over that. And I felt like last year, for whatever reason, and I don't know, there was, because last year was a home. It was the San Antonio. There was no San Antonio, but there wasn't that negative energy that there was this year. And it was just really weird because we were there last year. The press box in the Alamo Dome was wide open. You were in the stands, but that to me felt more like a celebration, where this to me felt like we're mad that you guys are here, or we're going to stay at home to prove a point. And I just don't that to me. That's a Battlehawks issue, or fan issue, because we were there last year and that did not happen. So clearly there is a difference between, the Brahmas is kind of an okay, like last year. They were kind of an okay franchise. They drew fine. We're doing the game here. It's kind of a tourist spot. We got a lot of fans. It's kind of center of the United States. But this year it was totally different. And having been in both, I will say there was a stark difference.
This is the thing, and I think Gregory Parks actually brought this up on Twitter. He said that basically this is the risk you run when you put this in a third-party venue. What happens when you decide, let's go for broke and just hope that maybe the team who's in this home stadium will actually host it? And again, most people were banking on that happening. A lot of people really thought St. Louis would be here, including me, including Mike Mitchell, including a number of people, and that didn't happen. And this is the result of what happens. I can't fault fans for not wanting to show up when their team doesn't make it. Okay, I can't tell them look, your team's not here, but get over it. I understand that part, but maybe it's a little more complicated in this sense, in that it's not a league that financially is booming, and it's not having all their stocks go to the moon, right? So it's not this case like with the NFL or some of these other established leagues where they'll be fine. That somebody will show up and fill that seat. But in this case, that's not necessarily the case. Like, who else is going to take that seat in the neutral, as a neutral party member and take over that seat that you had allocated before and resold, and I don't know if that's going to happen. Same with Saskatchewan. We saw that. It didn't really pan out that way when they didn't make it, and they especially didn't want to sell tickets to Winnipeg Blue Bomber fans who were their enemies. So, and I'm sure, I'm not sure if St. Louis fans would have felt that way. I'm not sure if it's the same thing in America, but that's, as a fan, it's complicated. On one hand, I understand your emotion of not wanting to show up. On the other hand, you want to see people support the league and be able to support the product and just say, look, if you don't show up, it looks bad on the league, and it looks bad on the support, and looks bad on TV. And we have to think more in a long-term setting here. And I don't want to call it selfish, because I understand it, but there is definitely certain arguments you can make both ways where, and I know that's very centrist of me to do, but it is tough because I can see it going both ways. But in one sense, I understand in terms of you have to be able to support something that is not guaranteed to just be around. That's the thing. It's not. There's no promises.
Like, they might never get a game back here. Like,
sure.
The Battlehawks in for the league standings or for whatever. I mean, this might be the last playoff championship game ever in St. Louis for the next decade. You have no idea. You can't take that for granted.
Well, I mean, and I'll just I don't want to throw his name out there too much, but me and John were talking about it last night, and he just said, "Is this the last time that we have it here?" And I said, "It's possible." I mean, does the league decide? And that's the thing. Does the league kind of take this and decide? Do we just do neutral settings from here on out? Do we just go back to Ken? Do we do something else? Do we do a smaller venue? Do we not try to run this risk anymore? I mean, these are mitigating factors now they have to think about, because they tried this experiment and it didn't work. And when the team that they thought was going to win didn't win. And it's something that was funnily mentioned to me too a couple of times was, if they really wanted to have the fix in for this team and get them into the game, they could have, because guess what? This replay system, I mean, basically Mike Pereira and Dean Bandino are God, and you can do whatever you want basically. And I'm not saying they're like fixing games, but if they really wanted to, they could have done that. And that's not, but for competition's sake, that's not going to happen. So, this is something that the league's going to have to think about going forward. Are they going to have to go to more neutral settings and just decide, whatever party people we get, if we can't have that big home crowd, so be it. We'll see what happens.
A couple comments here, and then we'll get to the game, because I know how do people want to talk attendance and expansion, half of that, whatever. We have a couple questions here, and then I want to talk to you about this. Because my comment, and then a couple comments here. I'm worried, and I don't know if the league even cares. I mean, we were talking about it last night. Like, the league really feels like, okay, we want to be a TV product. And I want to talk with Mike this week, and I don't know if that's the title of the episode, but is the UFL too focused on being a TV product? Because if that's the case, then you don't care, right? Like, hey, we're broadcasting this nationally as long as we have some people here to make some noise. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, because I think, along with attendance, that goes, we've talked about it before, people watching the games and making it more appealing for people to buy, the franchises and all that. Like, that all goes into that. Maybe they don't care. And I would say that that's a bad thing, that if they don't care enough. Just a couple of comments. Mike here says it was literally Father's Day. And that's great. Like, my problem is not the people that didn't want to go because it was a holiday. The tickets, it was Father's Day, whether or not the Battlehawks were in there, right? So the people that were going to go bought the tickets knowing it was Father's Day. It was that we decided not to go or sell our tickets or stay home, or, well, I saw comments, I bought 6 tickets and we went, but we couldn't get rid of the other 4. I mean, we had, Jaw won our tickets, but it was even hard trying to find people hey, okay, my schedule changed, or this happened or that happened. And just the other thing with this was, Abdul, do you think the league will do best team host a championship? I know it'd be added cost. I think it's just stadium availability. I mean, you can't hold that many venues. You have to know where you're going to be that day. You can't say, well, we're going to wait, and then the week or two before, not that the Battle Dome's hosting a lot, but you can't book a stadium like that a week out. Like, hey, we actually need a championship game next weekend.
Yeah, no, there needs to be a little bit more, just if possible, have a little more planned out for people so that they can buy those tickets ahead of time. As far as the Father's Day thing goes, I mean, they mentioned a number of times in the stadium, and they also, I remember that at one point they did the Simba camp thing when you called your child up. I mean, look, this is actually, if your father is into football, this is actually kind of a cool thing to go with your dad. If my dad, I wish I could have brought my dad here, but he's in love with the game of golf the sport of golf too much to really make that sort of sacrifice. But you know what? I just wonder if there's going to be questions as who chooses what over whom. And look, St. Louis fans would have chosen this game. They made it. Absolutely, they're choosing to go here, regardless of whether Father's Day happens. It's the the more spread out audience that makes that conscious choice of, do I really want to miss Father's Day for this game? And that's a consumer choice, right? That's the choice that the consumer makes and says, well, I make that sacrifice. I'll have to go do this because, this isn't like how people say, like, honey, let's not get married on Super Bowl Sunday. Like, I don't want to miss the Super Bowl. People like actually think like that, right?
Yeah.
And so there's choices that have to be made in that way. So, it is funny. We've talked about this earlier. Like, they played the XFL championship game the day before Mother's Day last year, and this is the case with Father's Day weekend. So, are they going to adjust? Are they going to adjust the schedule in terms of, like, are we going to have this even happen?
Yeah, move earlier. Yeah.
They've really experimented with this. The USFL championship game was on July 4th weekend, and like there's always this kind of like holiday weekend thing that they try to go towards Memorial Day weekend. These are, again, continuing like analytical questions that they're going to have to keep addressing if they're going to think about logistically how many they're going to get people in their end. But like you said, maybe they just care that it's on TV and
enough. Yeah.
If there's enough people, then that's fine by them.
Okay, last comment here. We're moving on. Mike, 27,000 isn't bad for the Battlehawks. But there wasn't 27,000. That was tickets distributed. So that was like on the high end. Had there been, obviously more Battlehawks people would have bought this week going into it. But like, there was not, I would say honestly, there's probably 12,000 people there on the high end. I was there upstairs looking down. I went downstairs, walked around both pre-kickoff, during the game, after the game. Like, so it's fine. And I'm not, there's a lot of circumstances. Like I said, maybe they don't even care. But there was not 27,000. I know that's the number Mike reported. That's the number distributed. But there was not 27,000 people there. Like and subscribe here. Like I said, moving on. In terms of the Brahmas game plan here, I tweeted last night, there's a John Cena clip where he just says the word ass. And I said, that seemed to be the Brahmas game plan going in here. What did you make? This was first shutout that we know of in kind of modern spring football history. It's never happened. We were thinking about that at the bar. I texted Parafino. I don't know. And Mike, there was also not 22,000 in San Antonio. Thoughts on just kind of the overall, like the Brahmas did not even get off the plane. You said that last night.
Their offense certainly didn't. And I just didn't understand really what the game plan was as far as how they were attacking that defense. I really thought they would try to maybe just at least try some things downfield or try some trick plays or try something that was at least getting the Brahmas, because the Stallions were so on point with their tackling and with their focus, and they knew exactly where the ball was going every single time. The Brahmas offense continued to make it a horizontal passing attack. They just continued to attack the sideline, and it just didn't seem to really go anywhere. They couldn't run the ball very much. Birmingham's run defense was number one in the league, so it was going to be hard to run against them. But I just thought they'd be a little bit more creative in how they implemented some of their playmakers, like Anthony McFarland and John Lovett. Maybe just some screen passes, something. They just could not. Neither team crossed midfield about 20 minutes into the game, and you're sitting here thinking, are we going to get any points before this half ends? And obviously the Stallions scored 8 points before the half was over. But it was just such a stalemate. But from the Brahmas standpoint, I'm just bewildered at the fact that there was just nothing. They could get absolutely nothing. And I know some of it is, they couldn't create any turnovers. Their defense couldn't really do anything. But you're stopping the Stallions on every drive. Like, you got to do something with that. You have to be able to move the ball. And it never came to fruition. They absolutely could not get anything going in the passing game. I honestly, I'm not going to fault Garbers too much. I thought he played fine. I don't think it was really him. I just don't think the scheme really fit anything. And this Stallions team knew exactly what they were doing on every play, and they had him snuffed out from the beginning. It was just, honestly, it was bewildering to see it happen.
Well, and obviously we'll watch kind of, I want to check out the broadcast and kind of the replay here. Now, obviously we were in the stands and watching that. Like, I wanted to see the whole sock change thing we had early in the game, where one of them was the Stallions players. Daryl made him, in violation of that. But I texted when I moved down, because I didn't even really, I don't even think, I'm like, oh shoot, I'm sitting there in the stands. I'm like, oh, there's Brock Heward. So I sent him a message, and I was like, hey, see if we can get him on the show this week. He said he's traveling, but I said, man, this is not, because I saw his face and we were laughing like, God, is he trying to talk? Because he was on the Brahmas sidelines. We were over there, and I'm like, it doesn't look like he wants to talk to anyone. It doesn't look like anyone wants to talk to him. And I messaged him. He goes, this is a volatile sideline right now. And we even saw, I think it was RJ tweeted, which I don't even know if RJ was at the game, but tweeted Wade was throwing his headset down and people arguing and the defense screaming at the offense because they're doing their job and leaving the bench. Really just felt like just an utter collapse. I can't even think of a better way to phrase it.
Yeah, a lot of resentment on that sideline. And look, that's what's going to happen when the defense is doing its job and when one side of the ball is doing its job and the other one isn't. It's going to be a lot of resentment on the sideline. And it's unfortunate because this Brahmas defense, I actually thought, played a really good game, actually. I mean, they did give up a lot of running yards. I mean, the biggest tell in this entire game is the fact that the Stallions ran for 210 yards. Brahmas ran for 52. I mean, you basically quadrupled the number of rushing yards they have. And that physicality really came through, and it just wore down the Brahmas. I mean, the defense was just on the field way too much, especially in the second half, and it just wore them down eventually. And I'm sure that spilled out on the sideline because the offense was just doing absolutely nothing. And, it's unfortunate this team kind of losing its cool and just emotionally. I mean, the most fight I saw from them was when they were literally fighting the other players from the other sideline, like when they were literally getting into altercations. We had an ejection later in the game. Just a lot of just emotional pieces there, and for the Brahmas, they just completely lost their cool. Wade Phillips spikes his headset at one point, like he's just not having a good time. It was just frustration all around. I could see. I remember watching Brock. You and I both watched Brock. You were trying to approach it, and it was like trying to walk towards a hornet's nest, like an angry hornet's nest. And I think he just realized I got to cut my losses because this is not tenable to be around right now. But just to see them lose their cool so much like that, it was honestly disappointing because they've just been so cool and level-headed the entire season. Even when the offense wasn't doing much, they would find ways to like win games or be in games, but they were just out of it, especially in the second half.
Yeah, we have a couple comments here, and I will say, yeah, with the Brock thing, it was like I'm playing like Frogger or something. Like I'm trying to like walk into like traffic, and I'm trying to like I don't really know if I want to do that.
Where's the log? Where's the log I can jump on?
But it was just wild, and just Anthony was at the post game, and he said that Wade didn't want to talk a lot about the game, talk more about the season. We're proud of the guys. And that's fine. I guess so we got to make sure we talk about AJ Martinez here. We have some comments from Zach I want to pull up. But I want to see general thoughts if the Battlehawks are here instead. Obviously, a lot of other things change. But do they fare any better? Birmingham, it felt like, especially when they scored that first touchdown, it was like, okay, this is over, right? Then they got the scoot, the fumble, whatever. And I'm like, okay, it's totally gone. I mean, it felt like 2 scores and then 3 was insurmountable. But with the Battlehawks, would that be different if they're there?
I mean, I think they actually score for one, but they at least put up some points. But I don't know if they really fare that much better because it all boils down to AJ McCarron's health, and his ankle obviously was just shot by the end of the season. And I don't know without AJ's leadership and his ability to kind of be mobile and be able to really command the offense that he had earlier in the season. I don't know. I mean, I think the Stallions team, the Stallions, they're a great team. They have all the assets. This team has lost, as Anthony said yesterday, 4 games in the last 3 years, and they have 3 championships. And there's a reason why. Their defense has always been quite exceptional. They've always been able to find a way. Like I said, it's remarkable that they managed to get through this, especially with all the coaching changes. They managed to find a way to just come back and have this kind of effort at the end of the season. So, to be honest, I think maybe the Battlehawks would have put up a little bit more of a fight on offense, but I don't know. I think the same result would have happened. This Stallions team was just ready, and I think they were ready for whatever was thrown at them. And I think it was just mitigating circumstances. Do I think the XFL conference, I honestly believe this, the XFL conference as a whole was probably stronger than the USFL conference, but Birmingham was by far the best team. I mean, they're like clear head and shoulders above everybody else.
Yeah, we talked about that too, Walker, where, I think generally talent level XFL conference higher, but the Stallions, I think, is in another tier above. I think if they're the S tier, I think Battlehawks are, that A, Brahmas, maybe that, B+, A-, right? But there's such a jump between, I think, any team and the Stallions.
Yeah, I mean, and it bared out that way. But I do think St. Louis could have put up more of a fight. But I'll say that.
Well, it could have been hard to put up less.
It's true. Less could have. I don't even want to think about that, honestly.
But I mean, that was the thing. We had a comment earlier from this was way at the beginning from Marcin, and I love him, and we talked in Hamilton last year, or Regina. But he said, the first half was so boring, had to turn it off. And we'll get ratings tomorrow. We'll see all that. And we had said I think 1.3 and 1.4 would be great, but. If you were turning on that game, that was a horrendous first half to try to entice anybody to watch. I mean, I was watching the Mariner game on my phone in the press box. I'm like, this is brutally slow.
Mm-hmm. I sent a picture into the chat. I think it was a picture of a skeleton in a seat, and I said, waiting for someone to score. And it really felt like that sometimes. And I hate, I hate feeling that way, but I could say that the collective crowd felt that way too, where it's just, I mean, everyone was just begging for a ball to be thrown downfield, and that really didn't happen. Speaking of which, by the way, I want to give Adrian Martinez his due for winning the MVP in this game, but I'll say this. If you had told me that Adrian Martinez was going to throw 98 yards through the air, I would have thought you would have had a fantastic chance to win. And that didn't happen because this ground game was so brutal. I really think that Ricky Pearson, a person, really may have had a good chance to win the MVP award. He had 102 yards rushing, but he ran like Marshawn Lynch. He just absolutely bodied people and threw them into the dirt, or the turf in this case, and was honestly probably the best player on the field on offense. And I really believe that he set the tone for Birmingham to kind of break out of their mold and be able to actually do something on offense, because the Brahmas pass D was really, really good. They kept everything in front of them. Nobody let any big plays happen over the top. They made sure that everything was kind of in front of them. They just got worn down in the run game. But it was lack of a better word, it was brutal to watch in the first half, just because there was just nothing happening. Again, not crossing midfield for 20 minutes in a game is really tough. Like, that's some of the most like stagnant offense I've watched in football, not only in person but just in general, in quite some time.
Yeah, what did you think about it? So we had the Adrian Martinez, we had the MVP, we had the Tom Brady. Obviously, we were there. I saw the clips, the Brady presentation. Like, well, Adrian, like this is a good trophy. Hang on to that. Like, that was weird. They saw the clip of Tom, like, they really need to get the ball downfield. I'm like, I'm so glad, like $300 million. Like, this is like the keen expert analysis. I'm throwing it out here. I think Brady, I don't think it makes it. I think you get one of those, like, what was it? Who was it? The Orleans guy, Drew Brees, they did it for a year, right? And then they're like, you're terrible. I don't know. We'll see about that. But I thought that was interesting. What do you think of Tom Brady, what we saw? And then what do you think of, Adrian Martinez getting the MVP? I mean, it's not like there was a lot else. You can't give it to the whole, Birmingham defense.
Well, I think Tom Brady is obviously exceedingly knowledgeable about football. I mean, he'll know 10 times as much as I'll have in my entire lifetime. But how do you translate that on television? That's the thing. I think as a color commentator, you really have to actually paint the picture for everybody and be able to describe it in a way that makes sense and is able to teach people certain things. I mean, that's why I really love someone like Joel Klatt. I mean, he's very colorful. He understands a lot about the game, but he is also able to present it in a way that makes sense and teaches you something. And I think that's something Brady's going to have to learn. Whether he has the acumen to be in that mold, we'll see. But, I think you get nervous, especially at the beginning, because you want to be safe. You don't want to be controversial. You don't want to just be opinionated, which I understand. But you have to be able to put yourself out there a little bit. TV personality is different than obviously your normal life personality. And it's something that you have to kind of work with and mold with. But I don't know how much of a leash he's going to be given. And I'm sure, obviously, has $300 million leash next to him. So Fox will give him as much time as he needs to, but it's up to him if he's going to be better. But I do believe that Brady will work at it, because Brady is a workaholic. Like, he will want to get better at that.
Yeah, Abdul here. Yeah, Brady was great. Like, I mean, this is a separate conversation. Like, I would just stick with Greg Olsen. Like, I don't think you can tell me that. Like, I don't think that there's 20% more people tuned in to watch the game because Brady's on the call. I think you're going to get that the first week. But regardless, yeah, Jenny here says the game was not fun. Chris, was brutal. Let me know in the chat. Like, I saw comments on the Twitter like, this ruined the season, or this, like, what a terrible way to end it. Like, do you feel that way? And put it in the chat. I mean, it is what it is. Like I said, we were talking with the league execs. Like, I mean, you can't. It's live sports. I mean, that's the difference. And when I used to always watch WWE, is I'm like, you're able to script the perfect ending every single time, right? Where here in the obviously real life sports you can't. But does that ruin the season for you? Does that ruin the season? Let me know.
I'm going to say no. I don't believe it actually ruins anything for me. Is it disappointing? Yeah, of course it is. You want to have a much better game and a better product to showcase than this. And you don't want it to be so lopsided too. But no, I don't believe it ruins the season at all. The season was compelling enough in its own way. I do think it was funny that Mike was still hemorrhaging to have overtime so badly. And, if it had happened, that would have been wild. God forbid it'd be a 0-0 overtime, because there was thoughts of that starting to happen. But no, I mean, look, it is what it is. One team showed up and the other one had a unit that didn't get off the plane. I know that's harsh to say, but like, the offense just really just couldn't the Brahmas offense really just disappeared. And I just don't think it really, but I don't think it ruined the season for me.
Yeah, like, so back to the Brahmas thing and like the AJ of it all. We've talked about this, and even going into last year and injuries and stuff going into the end of the season. Like, I mean, I love AJ. He's been on the show twice, well, at least once, if not, I can't remember if we got him on this season. But like, is this an AJ thing too? I mean, it just felt like we saw the same play over and over. I know you talked at the top about that. A lot of slant. We're going back, this way. It felt like there was no attempt at all. And is that him not trusting Garbers? And we had a comment here like, is Garbers trying to get an NFL opportunity? Did that hinder? Well, I would think you'd want to play better in the championship because of that. But was that because Dormady came in, we saw him making some plays. Like, was that what's going on with AJ Smith? I guess.
Well, it is interesting how they control the offense so much more with Chase Garbers. And look, Anthony made a good point. He said, AJ Smith said before the season that this guy, Chase Garbers, is who he thinks of as his PJ Walker. Well, PJ Walker threw the ball down the field. Garbers doesn't really do that. He's very much more short to intermediate routes. And that's fine when you're controlling the pace of play, but they weren't. And they needed to be more aggressive downfield. Dormady, for better or worse, is going to do that. Is he going to throw the ball in harm's way? Yes, but he is going to push the ball downfield. And we saw that one drive where they finally got into the red zone at last. They didn't score, obviously, because they were desperate and they were trying to go for it. But at least there was something going on in the passing game, and there were finally plays being made that were beyond 5 or 10 yards. And I just, there's maybe two different kinds of games you can play with those sorts of players. And maybe Dormady would have just been a better fit. Are you going to get some risks? Yes. I know you don't want to be risky, but it felt like the Brahmas were playing not to lose instead of to win. And that, to me, is what really was emblematic about the way that Chase Garbers played and then what happened when we saw Dormady out there.
Well, I think even Mike, and we were talking in the chat, and obviously, Brady's intrepid kind of stuff too about, well, the teams are feeling each other out. Like, it felt like that for a little bit, but it felt like the Brahmas never got into second gear at all, where they're just like, oh, we're kind of just like you said, playing not to lose. And it felt like there was no risk, there was no imagination, there was no creativity. And like at some point they know what you're going to do. And they were trying to get interceptions. So like when you're doing the same play over and over, I'm able to read that and kind of react to it. It felt like very weird. And I don't know to put the blame on Wade or AJ, like it's certainly not the team that we expected to show up.
No, not at all. And again, I don't know if that would have meant that Dormady should have been switched in earlier. I don't know if that would have saved them. At some point, I mean, as a coaching staff, you understand the game plan is just not working. And it was just too little too late by the time they switched out Garbers and Dormady.
We had a comment here. Jenna's mad. Birmingham carried the USFL. Birmingham was losing. Would support USFL. It's not fixed. I will say we joked last night. There were some smiling faces in the hotel bar. Like, oh, I bet that person's happy that the USFL won. I mean, it's interesting, and we make those jokes about all that stuff. But like, I think that gives relevance to a lot of that. Maybe. Does it give a boost now that Michigan made it to the playoffs? When you want these teams to have success, it's really hard to get people to go to Memphis or Houston games because they suck. At least Birmingham. I don't know. I mean, we saw people. It feels too predictable. I mean, you got to win. You can't blame a team for winning. But I do think the Birmingham Stallions being successful helps that conference.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, they're carrying the torch. They have been carrying the torch for 3 years. They are by far the stalwart franchise. And they at least give it relevance because otherwise – I mean, there's some tough ball to watch there in the USFL in terms of the Memphis and Houston teams. I like Michigan a lot. Maybe they're not the most prettiest to watch on TV, but they are a good team, and they've been a better team the last 2 years. That first year was really rough when they were coming out of the gates in the hub model. But, like the USFL, from a TV standpoint, I think has some interesting playmakers. It's just there's two teams that are really struggling, Memphis and Houston. But, yeah, like Birmingham – Birmingham is compelling just based on what they've done. Again, this is a tremendous thing. And there's people now, there's fans from opposing teams that want to see them lose. Like there are teams that are saying, okay, we want to give you our best shot and take you down. We want to be the ones that take down Birmingham. And it hasn't happened yet. And I don't know when it's going to happen. It really depends on, Skip Holtz stays around and continues to build on this dynasty. It'll be really interesting.
A couple things. Yeah, I mean, it feels a little bit like the CFL with Winnipeg the last few years. Like you're going to have in these smaller leagues, you're going to have teams. There's going to be a talent gap there. I mean, there's just not the parity that they want. And so, yeah, I mean, it puts a bullet on the shoulders or a bullet on the, whatever, target on the head, whatever you want, metaphor you want to call it. But yeah, it does feel like Skip entertaining the room last night. It feels like Skip's in a good place right now. Like if I'm Skip, I don't know. I mean, do I go anywhere else? I mean, I don't know if it gets, obviously you can go make money, go more money, do whatever. Like we were talking, okay, you go to college and you're dealing with NIL and all this. Like here, you work 3-4 months out of the year, you do some showcases during the summer. Like, I don't think it's a bad gig.
No, and if he wants to go to college, maybe coach at college or somewhere else for maybe a season, that's fine too. But I mean, he does have the best gig in town. He really does. This Birmingham franchise just absolutely adores him. His fans adore him. As you said, he'll never have to buy a drink in the state of Alabama, maybe ever again. I just don't know, like, going from here. The thing is with these franchises, what do you think of as the franchise that has to succeed and is better for the league? Like, for example, one of the things I saw last night, Saskatchewan had another comeback victory against Hamilton. Sorry, Jason. But they came back and they won. And I saw a lot of comments saying, oh, it's good that Saskatchewan is good, because this is good for the league. Mm-hmm. And I don't know really if this conference has that. Now, maybe you could argue it's probably St. Louis because of the attendance that they get. Probably you want St. Louis to be successful because of how many people they get. But I don't know if that's necessarily the case for other franchises in this league. I don't know if they really have that. So, because there's a lot of leagues where they say the same thing. They say, oh, it's good that this team is good because it's good for numbers overall. And I'm not sure if that's necessarily the case in this league yet, because I don't know if anybody has that wagon to hitch themselves to.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, I don't know. And obviously we've seen the ratings, people, okay, but Michigan draws more, Birmingham draws more, whatever. I maintain it's a lot of the time slots and the networks and kind of what's going on with that. But I don't know. Whatever the rating is, I don't know if you get a bigger TV rating yesterday with the Battlehawks in there. I mean, obviously, I think you get more people in the stands, but I'll be curious. I think that there's a floor right now for a floor and a slightly higher ceiling for spring football. And I don't know if a different combination yesterday would have made that better. I think you would have had a better in-game experience, and maybe that translates to TV. But I don't know. I don't know if there's another 500,000 people that are tuning in because the Battlehawks are in there.
I don't know about that either. I mean, as far as being a fan that wants to go to the games, you want that team to be good and be able to have that energy. And the Battlehawks have always been good. Like, they've always been a team that seems to always be above 500. So that bodes well for them, at least in terms of their reputation. So that's good for them. But as far as everybody else in the league, I mean, are people really going to care, like, suddenly that the Roughnecks become fantastic? I don't know. I don't know if that really draws the number. If Memphis suddenly becomes fantastic, I don't know. That's the thing. I don't have that answer. I'm not sure if that's the draw that everybody is expecting. I mean, we see Birmingham is obviously, they're a dynasty, and the numbers in their stadium haven't really changed. I mean, obviously their TV rating is very high. Their Birmingham TV rating is great. People watch them in the area, but as far as like getting people into the stands, it hasn't really shifted the needle. So I don't know what that means.
Just a couple of things here. Zach here. This claims to be a league of parity. Birmingham still elite. No one can compete with them. I wonder what kind of Kool-Aid they're drinking. I want some. I like that. Zach, we didn't run into Zach. I think Zach said he was in the suite yesterday. So we tried to see, I say what I say. I come to St. Louis. I can only see the people that want Zach. Zach's highfalutin here in the suites. But I will just say, like, when you have these smaller leagues, and we're talking the eliteness of Birmingham, like the CFL, it feels like there's like 6 pretty decent teams, and then there's like 2 or 3 kind of duty teams, right? Like this year, it feels like Edmonton's kind of going to be ass. It feels like Ottawa, but I feel, in the 6 teams make the playoffs, and like I feel like that cut is that way. Where I feel like in this league, there's like 1 or 2 good teams, and then there's a lot of ass teams. Like it's kind of like Birmingham. Like you need to flip that. I want to have 5 or 6 of 9 good versus 2 or 3 of 8 good.
Well, it's just more of, can a team recover when things aren't going their way?
Yeah.
And I do believe that St. Louis sometimes can do that. They don't always do it, but I believe they can. Birmingham, obviously, any turmoil they go through, they manage to figure it out. Unfortunately, we saw with the Brahmas last night, that wasn't the case. When their offense went, that was it. It was game over. That's kind of my biggest thing is, can these teams have another way of adjusting or be able to figure out something that will help them win that game, or be able to join that upper echelon of teams. I mean, we saw that with the CFL last year. Even, we dogged Montreal the entire season and said, well, they're kind of a mid team. They're not fit to be a team like BC or Toronto or Winnipeg. And they went out and proved everybody wrong because they were able to ascend. And like, you could tell that there was at least competition there, and it was shocking of course, but that competition, that reality of, oh, this upset could actually happen. The thing is, I don't always feel like that in spring football. Sometimes I just watch a game and it's almost a formality. Like, I don't think I watch Birmingham games. I don't expect them to lose, even when they're trailing to a team like Michigan. I'm like, yeah, they're going to figure it out. Like, it's just, there's no suspension of
belief
that they're going to basically lose this game. Like, that never comes into play. And I think as a sports fan, you want to at least have a little bit of doubt, because it keeps you on edge and it keeps you interested, because you think this may not work out for us, and you need to keep that in your head.
A couple of things here. Denzel, I'm worried about the XFL side being able to keep coaches because of the new pay structure. Denzel, I think we're going to talk with Mike about that this week. So I guess I get subscribed on that because I want to get Mike's thoughts. I mean, he was one that reported Hines Ward last year, and that's how we got Wade Phillips with it. Spoiler alert, I don't think Hines Ward's Brahmas make it to the championship, but I don't think they fare any better against that. And Mark here, I don't want the UFL to become the Stallions playing the role of Globetrotters versus Generals every season. Parity is needed. I agree with that. Talking just real quick, like adjustments, kind of all that stuff. Are you surprised? Obviously, we saw Dormady late in the game, but it was like halfway through the fourth quarter. Like, to me, at halftime, you make like, what the hell are we? I mean, what are we waiting for here? And there's no like even, we don't want to offend anybody. I mean, it's spring football, and these guys might not be back next year. I was just surprised it took that long. Garbers did not have a great game, and then Dormady. Are you surprised it took so long?
It's always tough playing those politics, but yes, I do believe it was kind of surprising that Dormady didn't get a shot earlier. And look, again, I don't think Chase Garbers was really the problem necessarily. I just think the game plan was not conducive to his strengths and really what they were trying to do. They needed to push the ball downfield a little bit more. And that's the thing. Dormady is going to do that. He's going to take those risks, and he's going to be able to take those high volume plays that are going to be very volatile, but maybe that's what you need. Maybe you need a little bit more gusto in what you need. And look, coaches are not afraid to do this. Like, we saw this last week with Skip Holtz. Martinez was not playing well against Michigan. He said, I'm putting in Matt Corral, and Corral played well. And I had that in the back of my head today. I thought, if Martinez doesn't play well, start playing better. There was parts in this first half where I started thinking, I don't know, Corral might get his way and kind of get into this game. He never did. But you have to be prepared for that to happen, because if things aren't going well, coach, at the end of the day, the coach wants to win. The coach wants to win the game. And that's what kind of, again, sort of shocked me about the Brahmas. There was just such a lack of urgency. Like, there was no, it's like they weren't even trying to hit the panic button. They just said, no, we'll figure it out. It'll start to even out eventually. And it just never did. So I don't know. Again, the reticence to even try something with Dormady until it was far too late just was puzzling.
A couple comments here. Wade is gone. People talk about it's not good for. I mean, this is just my whatever. I think you're going to see an exodus of the XFL side. The deal was they were on the contract for the 2 years. So all the XFL contracts are currently on a higher pay structure than the USFL contracts. That's why Hines Ward left, because they said, okay, year 2 this year you're going to get paid, but then next year you're going to get a drop. And for whatever reason, Hines Ward, this is Mike Mitchell's reporting, said, I don't want to do that. I'd rather leave. I said at the time, I would take the money right now and then figure out. You always take the money now and okay, I'll figure that out next year. But he said no. That's why Wade's here. But if these coaches get dropped down to half of what they're getting paid or more, I think there's going to be a big drop. I'll be curious. Do you still get a Bob Stoops doing this? Do you still get whatever? I'll be curious. I'm not saying Wade's gone, but I think that you're going to see a shifting, at least on the XFL side, because USFL coaches, unless they get rid of like Curtis Johnson because, hey, you're not good at this or whatever. But like, I think from a pure merit of getting paid like that, like not morality, but that feeling, like the self-worth of like, is Wade Phillips coming back for whatever the heck they're going to pay him next year?
I hesitate to say yes, because as you said, the pay scale is a really big factor. And again, I do think the coaches love doing this. I think Bob Stoops likes having a short-term job here. I think Wade loves coaching. He's going to coach until the wheels falls off. And for me, I hope that a lot of these coaches don't leave. You want to see somebody get their chance. A lot of people yesterday were asking, like, well, AJ Smith might get a head coach job. Well, we're not sure now after last night's performance. I don't know. Maybe not the best time to kind of bring that up, but the people want to see guys get their opportunities and be head coaches, right? And I will say this about these leagues, the XFL, the USFL, and the UFL. We've seen plenty of guys get their chances. Some have panned out, and some have, some haven't. Some have been spectacular successes, and others have been catastrophic failures. but you want to at least try that out. At least you want to be able to, be able to beta test that and say, can this work? Can this guy get a program together and can they do something? I mean, again, Skip Holtz is somebody that I paid a little bit of attention to in college, and now I pay a lot more attention to because of what he did in this league, because of this tremendous accomplishment. So you can really uplift the profile of somebody who even has been a head coach already, but maybe they just need that right opportunity to really shine and to show their assets and their acumen for the game.
Chris here. Wade loves coaching. He'd do it for free. I bet you he wouldn't. I would bet you that he would not do it for free.
You got to pay bills.
Gotta pay bills here. You can't wishes and butts and candy and nuts. It doesn't pay all that. We got about 10 minutes left on here, and then we're gonna pack up and head to the airport. Make sure if you have any comments, questions, get them in here before we get out of here. Make sure we do all that. And then, like I said, Friday episode coming up with Mike, hopefully, and then we'll have Hussey on tomorrow. We'll do CFL stuff. We have another game today, or did they end yesterday? I gotta know. You guys saw yesterday. I'll catch up on all that stuff when I get home. General thoughts, anything else with the championship game you want to make sure we touch on, and then we'll figure out what everyone else wants to talk about?
Well, I just wanted to say, first of all, like I said, the game didn't go according to plan, but what did go beyond my expectations was the people I got to talk to on this entire trip. And I just wanted to say, and look, I know we get a lot of comments. Me and Reed both get a lot of comments about how we review things. I did get some comments, including from a couple league people yesterday about, Andrew, you have some interesting perspectives. I don't always agree with you in your negativity, but I appreciate your perspective. And you know what? To me, that made it worth it, because that's all I care for. I'm just grateful that we have this. Mm-hmm. And that's my biggest takeaway from this, is just I'm grateful to be at a championship game. This is 2 years in a row that we've been able to do this. And I've also been able to see another part of America that I didn't know when I was going to see it. I get to go to a city that I had on my bucket list for a long time, St. Louis, and really just kind of explore more of my country and more areas that I hadn't had a chance to go to, And so for me, I'm just thankful to be here and really be part of this. So, and to really do this show again for an entire season again, to make it by the end. That's really my biggest takeaway. And just to be around people who care. I mean, I ran into some DC Defender fans downstairs, and their thing with me, they're like, we're just following the league. We want to go to the league goes. We want to support this. And there are people like that in the space. I believe there are people like that in the space. I just want them to be given the opportunity, and new people to be given the opportunity to be part of it, because I really believe in that. And I believe that energy is there. I want to see that taken care of and fostered.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say I got this up. Yeah, I got to see the arch. If you're not on Twitter, got to celebrate all that stuff, calling out whatever. Yeah, it was cool. I don't know if I'll ever come back to St. Louis. Maybe we'll come see Pat. Maybe we'll do a bar crawl with Pat. But I don't know. Back to Missouri.
Well, I'm getting calls to come back if Birmingham comes back to St. Louis. So I might have to, Reed. I might have to come here in your stead.
No, but it was fun. We'll talk. I had another comment here that flew out of my head here, but kind of moving into that's what I wanted to say. I'll be curious. What I'll be curious now is kind of what happens in the offseason, because we talked with Greg Parks yesterday on the show, and he was saying he doesn't think expansion, and they would announce that already. It kind of would have been this week, right? The same way, what was it? The XFL announced their coaches the week the USFL kickoff was. We're trying to I think there would have been some sort of buzz this week about all that. We'll see. Darryl said in the interview that, they were in his interview, the newspaper a couple weeks ago, the cities are set. That's the plan. We're working on expansion. But, do we see a bunch of layoffs now, seasonal and all that? Are we keeping people on? Does Corey have a job for the next 6 months trying to get people? I'll be curious what that looks like, because this needs to be a 365 year a league. But like we've said before with Fox, and do they value that, or are they just valuing this is products that we can put on, and we're moving stuff next year already to make to make room for racing, and that probably pays more money anyway. It's interesting to me that they're already relegating that stuff to Friday next year. It kind of shows the priority.
Yeah, that's true. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with the schedule. I don't think there's going to be an expansion. Sorry, guys. I don't believe that's going to happen this offseason. We talked about it yesterday. What's going to happen, with the investment firm Redbird Capital, what's going to happen there, what's going to happen with some of the assets going forward. Are we going to see any, coaching movement? Are we going to see again, one of the things that we don't want to see really so much is that this league just disappears for 6 months and then comes out of the dark. We want to see, at least some attention. I know Fox has the NFL they have to worry about, and there's obviously, bigger things at play here. But I do want to see that they are at least keeping this in conscious, and they're able to get news out about it, be able to build on this and continue building towards it. Also, please, hopefully, try to get some of the tickets sold a little bit earlier for some of the teams next year. That would be, I think, a huge, tremendous thing that they could do, and just get more people involved. There's a lot of questions the offseason. I don't know if those questions are really going to be addressed for a while. I'm a little bit worried about the timeliness of which some of the questions are going to be addressed, but look, that's just how it goes sometimes with these leagues. But I agree. I hope that there's more. I just wish there would be more people that were kept on full time, because there are people that want to be dedicated to this. There are people that want to do this for a living, and I hope that there's a way to make that a reality.
A couple of comments here. Abdul says, "You don't think St. Louis hosts next year's championship game?" No, like this was your shot. Like, that's why I did all this stuff and yelling at the people, and everyone got like, this was your shot. You don't get to sit out this year because you weren't in it, and they expect them to bring it back next year. I mean, sorry, like, that's like, you had the girl at the bar you were talking to, and hey, can I get your, like, that was your opportunity. Like, I don't see them coming back. I want to get your thoughts on that. Vincent says, back to San Antonio. Alamo Dome is the best stadium of the league. Play in Canton. Don't agree with Canton, because as Mike Mitchell pointed out, the capacity of Canton is less than even the reported attendance yesterday for the St. Louis game. So that would not happen. But I think the Alamo Dome is probably the best option. It's close enough to Dallas that you can bust, they can bust the players there. They were on charters last night trying to get out. That was interesting. But, it's central enough in that way. It's hard to get people to go to Missouri if you're like, I think San Antonio is central enough. You're able to get a lot of people into that. Curious your thoughts. Yeah, I don't think St. Louis gets it again next year. I think you missed your chance.
No, I think, and I don't think, again, I'm sorry, Battlehawks fans, but I don't think it showed well to the league that people didn't show up. And I think that's going to play a big long-term factor here in terms of if they even think about coming back here again. San Antonio, well, here's the thing, Reed. So this is what I was bringing up earlier in the show. Do you look to have more neutral settings instead of trying to play in a stadium that's being played in already by one of these teams? You try to go to a different stadium and say, let's just be here. Let's just have a neutral spot. Do you play somewhere in Texas, for example? Do you play somewhere in, I don't know, I guess like Tennessee, like Nashville or something? Or like do you pick a neutral setting? Do you just put a pin on a map and say, let's just meet here, and we're not going to worry about it if we're going to sell tickets or not, because that team's not going to make it? I mean, I know San Antonio did last year, but I just think the vibe of the XFL was so much more different.
It was different last year.
Different. It was a little bit different. And I really believe that. Like, people were just not worried about whether, they weren't worried like, oh, my Brahmas didn't make it, I'm not going to go to the game. People weren't worried about that. This was so much more of a bigger deal. And I don't know if the league wants to run that risk again. I think they just want to be able to just have a nice neutral setting. So for me, I'm going to say this. I think they're going to seriously consider just not being in a stadium from one of these teams again. I think they're going to just say, let's just do neutral sites from now on.
It's so weird. And just to round this out again, that it was different last year, and it would be different this year if it was, okay, this isn't even interconference, right? We're booing the Stallions, right? Hey, we're the XFL. Like, no, they were booing the Brahmas. I mean, this was, we are upset. And I don't understand that, because this is it's play to win sport, and you lost fair and square, and that is what it is. But that is the difference. Is it wasn't even like XFL on USFL crime. It was like, no, we're mad at, like, we're just mad. And it totally different vibe. You're right, than last year. Totally different.
I find that fascinating too. How many times have you heard the last 2 years about both of these leagues, both these conferences, people comparing themselves, XFL, USFL, which one's better, which, better players, better coaches, which one gets more fans, blah, 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 TV ratings. Like, there's been so much juxtaposition of like, which one is better. And then here's the opportunity to support a team from your league, and that's just not how it went. The vibe was not there. I really find that fascinating, because people have made such a big point about supporting the XFL conference. And now I kind of saw a little bit of a division with that yesterday, and people just said, you know what? No, you're here. I'm mad. I don't even want to support the conference. I just want to be against you. And that, I don't know, that really surprised me, considering some of the interactions and just so much of the grandstanding that people have done the last 2 years. I really was kind of almost confused by that.
Well, and just to be done with this here, because we got to get off here. Just the grandstanding that the Battlehawks fans, like, we're carrying all this stuff, we're supporting, and like, I was very shocked last week in my Twitter when I got a lot of negative, and I've had a lot of Battlehawks people unfollow me, and that's fine. Like, you can't, shout caw from the rooftops for the last 3 years and say that you're the cat's pajamas with all this stuff, and then when it comes time to put up, you sit mad at home. Like, I don't, and it's not, wasn't some weird fluky and a tiebreaker, and it went down to the point score. They get, like, you lost. Not even, I mean, you made the playoffs. It wasn't even, didn't make it. Like, I'll never, and like I said, I don't think they'll do it here. And it's shame on them. I mean, sorry.
Wow.
Anything else here? We're gonna log off. Anything else for Andy? Thanks everyone, like I said, for checking it out. Congrats to the Stallions. Congrats to everybody with the league and both conferences and all the execs and everything. I got a lot of that. Like, Reed didn't even congratulate them, whatever, last couple years. So congratulations to everybody. Anything else, Andy, before we get out of here?
No, like I said, super happy I got to do this. I'm glad to do this again with you. In person is always a treat. I, again, just really enjoyed my overall experience overall. I definitely want to try and come back here again for another game and be at a Battlehawks game when people show up to the stadium. I would like to actually experience that. But like I said, this Stallions thing, who knows? I mean, they're going to go for number 4 next year, man. I mean, this is immense. I really felt like we were watching history last night. So congratulations to them again. We'll see what happens going forward, but always be just thankful to be part of this and be with you.
Yeah, thanks for taking part. Thanks for making the time. Andy's on here. We'll get a handshake there. That's good. I appreciate it. And thanks, Anthony, who's, I'm sure, furiously riding the way right now, getting all his stuff up. Zach, Jenny, everyone in the chat, we appreciate it. Like I said, check in Friday. We'll figure all that stuff out. We're going to get back on the plane here, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks again.